So the message of this title is, what do you have to lose? It's a good one, I think. I mean, I wrote it, so. Um, so this week, there's like no design for the message. Had a pretty rough week. I went into class. I usually make the design in class, and I went in and I sat down and I looked at the computer and I was gonna work on my project. Let me tell you about my project. So I have to take apart an oatmeal box and then scan it and then rearrange everything and then redesign it. It sounds cool, but it's really not that cool. It's really lame. So I sat down in class. I was 10 minutes in. I put my hard drive in, I'm doing all this stuff, and I sat there and I looked at the screen. I'm just like, yo, this is really beat. And I'm almost done with my degree, and I had this unsettledness, if that's a word, inside me, inside my spirit, inside everything I was doing at school. And in that moment, I asked God, I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? What do you have for me? And he's like, dude, it's right there in front of you. I was like, what? And he was like, I need you to go, fulfill this other thing. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah. So I went back to school the next day and I changed my major, just doing photography. I feel like God's really blessed me to do that, so I did it. But when I chose to do graphic design, I was thinking long term. I was thinking, it'll get me a job. It'll get me what I need to, apartment and paying rent and all that stuff. And that's a real earthly mindset, and I didn't think about what God is gifting me with, what's what creativity he's instilled in our hearts, what, just what he designed you to do. He put you together so intimately and so particularly for one thing. And God was like, dude, you feel unsettled because look at what you're doing. It's you're designing oatmeal boxes. And no, that's not a bad thing. God spoke to me because I was unsettled. The past 2 weeks have been so bad. But when it came to choosing graphic design, so let me just say the topic of this is what do you have to lose, but it's more involved with God's promise. And so when I said to myself, hey, Parth, this looks like a good road for you to go on, the definition of promise is actually assurance on which expectation is to be based. So I assured to myself, based on what I would go through, that I would expect X, Y, and Z. And so, I'm sitting there, I'm just like, yo, this is not really going the way I planned it to go. And in that moment, it was all right, let me take a step of faith. And is it my promise or is it God's promise? Am I living for the assurance of, the assurance on which my expectation is based, or the assurance on which God's expectation is based? And I think it came to that crossroad where it was do you want to keep going, or can I go now? Can I step in now? And if you find yourself kind of beat, and you're just well, where do I go next? Where do I go next? Just be still and listen. Just look for him. I mean, I know a lot of us in this room, we've been in church long enough to know what God has gifted us to do, and that's a cool thing. And don't forget about that, because he put it in your heart for a reason. But going back to God's promise, I just thought to myself, well, am I gonna go based off of what God created me to do, or am I going to go based off of what expectations what I based off of, choosing my route? I just kind of focused on Jeremiah 29:11, which everybody knows, like, I have the plans for you and all that stuff. But if you read further, which nobody really does, because nobody likes the responsibility, he says, seek me and you will find me. Seek me and you will find me. You know what that causes you to do? It causes you to act upon something. And if you read a line later, he says, I will be found by you. By you. It's not like he's not just going to like carry you and keep the binky on. I feel like we're grown up enough in our Christian faith and our Christian walk that we're at that point where we can take on responsibility. We can't, just don't sit there. And I say to myself, well, what do I have to lose in this moment? What do I have to lose? Okay, I've done this many times, and where have I gotten? Or I've done this many times, and where has that gotten me? The promise on which I base my expectation on has gotten me here. And here is supposed to be not good. I think the biggest difficulty in this is like the mental torment, like the mental wear and tear. So you're going through this and you're like, oh my God. Like I did, like Tyler just quit his job. Elijah just quit his job. Like they're following God's voice. And, their next step is going to be like something that, and you're just going to look at you and be like, yo, you want me to do that? It looks nasty. Like, it looks really bad. Like, are you sure, dude? Like, are you positive? God's like, yo, I want you to go do that. And that's like the worst thing to be stuck in that is like this, like, because you're falling away from something that's so comfortable, something that's so, like, your promise. It's your promise. It's like, this is what I expected life to go like, or this is what I expected the outcome to be. But what about his purpose for you? I was reading N.T. Wright's new book, A Case for the Psalms, and the Psalms, when you read it, like people read it out loud, it's really meant to be sang. Like the Psalms are like hymns. Like you're supposed to sing them. Like if you were to like strip apart the worship songs and just read them through, it wouldn't hit as hard if you were singing them like you are. Like all my hope is in you. Oh my hope. If you're just like all my hope is in you. I mean, just like read a whole psalm and sing it and like really mean it. Like these guys, like these psalmists were like, yo, these words are tried and tested. Like they've been through that. They've been through that. If you read it in that same mindset, like, oh my God. Like if you read those psalms, they get dirty, man. Like they get like really dark and you're just like, dude, like, I think to myself, like, my life's not that bad now that I read Psalm whatever. Like, oh, deliver me, O Lord, from my transgressions. Like, these guys are standing there at the crossroads waiting for, like, God's divine intervention. And they're just like, deliver me, O God. Deliver me, O God. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And you get caught in it. You get caught inside of it. And what I love about Psalm 136 and 137, it's like one chapter and then the next chapter, okay? So focus. First chapter, 136. He can't put it up there because I didn't put it in there. 136 talks about God's victory. It's like, oh, God, you are so good, bro. Like, you are so good, man. Like, I'm on, like, a God high. I'm like a God high. Like, yo, let me go, like, pay for someone's lunch or something. Like, it's the same kind of high that, like, I remember when I was in freshman football, and coach put me in the game, and we won. Not because of me, We just won as a team. We won as a team. And it was against Woodbridge High School, and it was like, one of those games where it was like do or die, you know, like, all right, if this team wins, like, we got the upper hand, bro. Like, you know, it was good. And then we won the game. And then we're chanting on the bus ride home, oh my God, that was ridiculous. That was awesome. That's the way Psalm 136, like, God is so good, victorious. And then Psalm 137, they want the earth to devour them. They're like, oh my God, it's Babylon. The unrelieved sorrow and weeping by the wailers of Babylon. Unrelieved. And they're just blaming God for everything. What happened? One chapter back. What happened there? You were just in like awe. You're like, oh my God, dude, you're awesome. Next verse. Oh my God. Like you just want to die. You just want to die. You're just like, take me, bro. Take me. But the best part about like Psalm 137 is like, or any of the Psalms, any of the Psalms. Yo, the Bible is like a castle. It's like a cathedral. I like to look at it as a cathedral. This is what the Bible is to me. All right. So if you go into a castle, you go in the front door, all right? Maybe you side door, maybe back door, you know, who knows? Maybe you sneak off. You go in. And then there's so many other doors. And every door is like a new room. And in that room are like secret doors and more doors. And I feel like that's the way the Bible is. Like you could enter into like Luke and then come out of like Genesis and then come out of like Mark and then maybe Hosea, because nobody really reads that one. And the whole point of the Bible and the text is to point out the fact that, hey, listen, something's gone wrong here. A catastrophe has occurred. We are no longer in continuity with our good beginning because we began good. We have separated from it by a disaster. We are also separated from our good end. We are, in other words, in the middle of a mess. There's a quote by Eugene Peterson. He translated the Bible, he translated all these words into what you now know as the message. This is the central focus of the story. The thing that goes wrong and needs to be fixed. That's the whole point. You can take an exit into Jeremiah. You can take the exit into Psalms. You could take another exit. Revelation. But if you're reading Revelation, we got to talk. Like, and the whole book glorifies God's promise. It glorifies his promise that he is going to come through. He's going to come through. It's a gift. His promise is a gift. Can we understand the gift? That's the point. Are you going to understand the gift? When all the devils are standing right on top of you, and they're standing there to rescue you from like the madness and despair by explaining to you and whispering in your ear, because the devil will bind your arms and your hands behind your back and you won't even know it. The devil is on the prowl like all the time. And in that moment, he's going to tell you that God is not love. And in that moment that you will believe it for a little while. What did you do? How do you understand the gift of his promise in that moment? In that moment, how do you do it? Well, first off, you have a whole bunch of people sitting next to you with a whole bunch of phone numbers because we have iPhones. Second off, James 1:17. Oh, man, I wish I marked this. It says, every good and perfect gift is from the Father of heaven, of lights, where there's no change or shadow. Every good and perfect gift. Well, how does that make sense? My wife just left. My husband just cheated on me. My kid just died. My girlfriend broke out with me. My dad died. My dog died. The one thing that meant so much to me left. It left. It picked up and it took the exit. And in that moment, what do? In the madness of despair, when you're on the verge of suicide, when you're on the verge of contemplating to just overdose, when you're on the verge of just contemplating to end it all, what do? Because the devil will bind your arms so slowly and so quietly that you're not even going to know what hit you when it gets there. You won't even know what hit you. And you're going to sit there and you're going to wonder, oh my God, what just happened? And you won't be able to get yourself out of it. What do? Every good and perfect gift. How does that make sense? Let me tell you why. Because God won. Because the grave was conquered. Because the biggest scandal there ever was when Jesus wasn't in the tombstone when they went to go look for him. That's the biggest thing. That's what you put your hope in. That's what you put your faith in. God's promise. Every passage of the Bible, you could read it. God comes through. And he knows you so well. How can you not think that? How can you not think that he knows you so well? If you're going to put yourself in society and let them determine, oh, who are you? What? Do you see what goes on outside? He created you. What other option do you have but to believe that? Because every other exit and every other road has caused you to believe otherwise. Has caused you here. It has brought you to this darkness. It has brought you to this overflowing of, oh my God, I can't do it. I can't do it. He has put faith into you. And he's put eternity in your heart. Every good and perfect gift, just because God didn't grant you your wish, doesn't mean that God is not real. Doesn't mean God is a bad guy. Because he gave you faith in your heart to still believe in him. Matthew 7, chapter 11, and Luke chapter 11, verse 13. If you who are of sin know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your heavenly Father give good gifts to those who pray? Are we reading these words with reality? Are we reading these words with the fact that these are real, that they are my bread, that this is my bread, that this is what I'm eating every day? Are we reading these words that way, or is it just a book? Is it just a narrative? Is it just another piece of poetry that you're going to put on your shelf and display to people, well, I read the Bible in 7 different versions? It has to be real, because what other road is there? Ask yourself what other road there is. I know for myself that I've chosen a lot of messed up stuff to realize that, oh my God, I can't risk it. I can't worth it. You know, it's not worth it, especially because you're going to affect the people who are sitting under you. You're going to leave, and then you're going to cause this domino effect. Every decision that you make. And in that moment, you're saying to yourself, why? Why do I have to choose that? Why do I have to choose to be better? It's an act of selflessness. It's just as simple as that. We're supposed to be like Christ. It's the biggest act of selflessness I've ever seen. Friedrich Nietzsche is one of the biggest atheists that I know. And he made a very good point. A very, very good point. I know that sounds wrong coming from a pulpit, but just listen. There was only one Christian, and he died on the cross. Is that not true? Is that not true in contemporary society? Is that not true right now? What are you doing? Are these words real? Are they real? Are you going to treat them like they're real, or are you just going to read them when you want to make you feel good? Are you going to go do the works that he calls you to do, or are you just going to sit here? Every day we have the choice, the responsibility that he calls you to in Jeremiah chapter 29, not verse 11, but verse 13 and 14, when he says, seek me with your whole heart and you will find me, and followed by, I will be found by you. There's the responsibility. And he gives a very urgent warning in James chapter 1:16. Right before he says every good and perfect gift, he gives a very urgent warning saying, do not go astray, my dearly beloved. Do not go astray. Don't go. Don't go. Don't leave yet. I'm not done with you yet. Just because the promise that you assured yourself has failed, don't go. Because what other option do you have? What other option do you have but his promise and his desires for you? God's promise probes deeper into human experience than ordinary speech or praxis will ever be able to do. Ever, you will not find another human experience that probes deeper into your life than God's promise. But how are you going to see that? How are you going to go through all that wear and tear? What other option do you have? It invites you to pull back the veil of darkness and enter into the different dimensions of God's promise. You're not going to see God's promise if you don't go through it. But in the through it, we're so, oh man, it took like 2 days and, nothing happened, so. 2 days? I mean, the man lived and suffered for like 30 years. And you're worried about 2 days. I mean, is it real to you? Understanding that you have no other option, that this book is the only thing that's gonna save me. Understanding that gift, understanding God's promise, how can you neglect it? How can you not read it as the truth, as the word, as bread? It's a metaphor. It's not real. I don't want you to really eat your Bible. I want you to read it. I want you to put your face in it. I want you to devour it. Because every day is so important. Your long range future hopes will come rushing together and have already come rushing together in the judgment and the mercy of his life and his death. It's already been done. I just want to read a passage out of this book by Soren Kierkegaard. And it says, when you entertain doubt as to what it was that came from God, or what it was a good God, or what a perfect gift was, did you really dare to try it? And when pleasure's easy game called you, did you thank God? And when you were strong so much that it was as if you didn't need any help, did you thank God? And when your allotted share was little, did you thank God? And when your wish was denied, did you thank God? And when you yourself had to deny yourself your wish, did you thank God? And when people acted unjustly towards you and did you wrong, did you thank God? We are not saying that human injustice thereby ceases to be unjust. What would be the point of saying such a sick and stupid thing? Whether it was unjust is something you can yourself decide on. But the question is whether you trace the injustice and injury back to God. Pause. Responsibility. It's not God's fault. You chose it. Resume. But the question is whether you trace the injustice and injury back to God by means of being thankful for it. Received it from his hand as a good and perfect gift. Did you do this? If so, you have interpreted the apostolic saying in a worthy fashion that honors God and furthers your salvation. For it is a beautiful thing when someone prays, and many things are promised to those who pray without ceasing. But it is always more blessed to give thanks. Every good and perfect gift is from the Father in heaven. Whether he granted you your wish or whether he didn't grant you your wish. Because he put faith inside your heart. Because the cross was overcome. Because the biggest scandal there ever was that I could ever think about was that he wasn't in the tomb. Is that real to you? Is it real? Is it real? I mean, what other option do you have? That's what he asked me in the moment. in the moment of all the pain, in the moment of all the drowning myself in my sorrows, in the moment of being so high and out of my mind, so drunk and out of my mind, that I had no other option but to revert back to my only thing that I knew, is that, my God, why have you forsaken me? In that moment, he says, are you done? Are you done? And which made me ask myself, what other option do I have now? You beat and you beat on this one thing, and you keep doing this, and you keep doing that, and you keep doing this, and you keep doing that. Take a moment and ask yourself, what do you have to lose before you open the veil and you see? I just want to close in prayer, but I just want to challenge you. Break through what you think is unchangeable. Turn your gaze to heaven, so that by seeing it, you might seek what is above. Because what is above is the only salvation you'll ever have. It's the only love that you ever have. The only promise of love that I had was growing up with my dad and my mom, and that failed. Any grace or compassion I ever had growing up was my parents, and that didn't come through enough for me. And I'm not blaming them, because they don't know better, and they're not saved, and it's okay. But God, sending his only son, left us with an example and a story of which we can base love off of which we could base grace off of what we could base compassion off of what we can base our promises off of. Because he comes through. Although there's pain in the night, joy will come in the morning. I can guarantee you. When you're on the verge of killing yourself at 12:30 at night, and you call somebody, and the next morning you wonder what happened. Oh, dude, I don't know. Divine intervention. Pull back the veil. Awake my soul to the hope that you hold, that only you hold. God's purpose will never fall in line with your life if you don't fall under his discipline, if you don't fall under what he's called you to do. It takes humility. It takes you to say to yourself, yo, I'm going to sit right here and I'm just going to be like, dude, all right, take me. I seriously can't go on anymore. I can't do it anymore. I can't keep doing that. What kind of humility is that? Face it. What do you have to lose? Because clearly we're all broken. And that's the whole point of the story, is that God saves the broken. It's the whole point of the biblical narrative. Lord, I just pray right now, if you want to bow your heads, you can. Lord, I pray that you just infiltrate the hearts that are willing right now, God. Lord, give them a soft touch, God, and let them know you're there, God. In the night, God, in the stillness, Lord. Lord, I pray that they be still and know that you are God, Lord. Lord, I pray that they know that only you will get them out of the rut, God. That only you will save them, God. That your promise exceeds any promise that's been given to us on this earth, Lord. Lord, that your promise exceeds any promise that we made for ourselves, any expectations that we made for ourselves. What you planned for us and your purpose for our life is so much greater and so much newer and so much better than what we would ever expect it to be, God. Lord, I pray that this week we take a moment to realize the death, Lord, and the resurrection and the reality of the scriptures, God. That you are our only hope, Lord. Lord, I pray that somebody pulls back the veil this week, God. That by seeing you, they might seek you. That by feeling you, they might wonder what it was, God. such a precious invitation that you give us. But it is only going to be based off of if we respond, God. Our response, Lord. I pray that we respond this week to what he calls us to. Seek me with your whole heart and you will find me. He lets us know, God. He lets us know that you will be found by us. 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 Lord, protect us, Lord. In the chaotic world, God, in the fast-paced society, Lord. Lord, I just thank you for this night, God. I thank you for everybody who came out, Lord. And I just thank you for this message, God, because this is nothing what I had planned. In your precious and mighty name we pray. Amen.